Welcome to my channel, friends. I was thinking about my favorite biographies and memoirs that I've read throughout the years. So I've put a top 5 list together for you, and I'm going to start it out with Benjamin Franklin, An American Life by Walter Isaacson. The reason I loved this book was because Ben Franklin comes to life for me in this. I didn't realize how influential he was and how much he was really responsible for. I guess I take him as the greatest American hero after reading this book. He was a writer and a reader and a printer and a scientist and an inventor. He was responsible for the bifocal and the lightning rod, and he was just a really serious intellectual, and he was even a playboy. I didn't know so much about Benjamin Franklin. I loved this book. It was really revealing. Walter Isaacson does his homework in this book, and I just had so much fun reading it. The second book I'm going to mention is Education of a Wandering Man by Louie L'Amour. Louie L'Amour was a Western novelist, and he wrote a memoir about his life on the Western frontier. He was really out there, like as a cowboy and working by the mines and in the fields. And that's where he was inspired to write these novels. One thing about him that's really inspiring is that he was not a university-educated person. He taught himself how to be a great writer, the greatest Western writer, simply by reading books. He actually wrote down, kept a list of many of the books that he loved that he read. And at the back of the memoir is that long list. I think it's over 100 books that he read. This was a lot of fun. He was a real cowboy, and it was just really inspiring to see him teach himself to be the greatest. Number 3, Deviant by Harold Schechter. This is a biography on the murderer Ed Gein. Ed Gein is of great interest to me because he seems to be the most psychologically ill serial killer murderer that I've ever read about. He's really an interesting case because of the strange childhood he had and the fact that he killed his brother and he ended up being a murderer, and he was a grave robber that would take great care to remove the skins from his victims, and he made masks, and it was all just so bizarre and strange and unusual. Ed Gein was. And this was a really great biography. I didn't realize the deeply disturbed nature of Ed Gein until I read Deviant by Harold Schechter, and I have to recommend it to you, especially if you're a crime buff, a true crime buff, or even not. It's just such an interesting case that I highly recommend it to you. Number 4, I'm coming at you with Tis by Frank McCourt. Frank McCourt wrote the memoir Angela's Ashes, and Tis is actually the sequel, and I think it's the better book. Frank McCourt writes about his life in Tis, coming to America from Ireland as a young man, and the struggle that he goes through as a poor, uneducated Irishman trying to find work in New York City back, I think it was in the 50s. So it was a really incredible look, and it's a great sequel to Angela's Ashes, where he writes about his troubling childhood of desperation and despair over there in Ireland. It's an incredible sequel. Both books are phenomenal. He won the Pulitzer Prize for Angela's Ashes, but I just love Tis even better. It's about his life coming here, and he goes to the army, and it's really funny. He writes with this terribly haunting comedic narrative, and it's incredible. He goes on to be a school teacher, and it's just a fun memoir, and I highly recommend it. Number 5, I'm coming at you with One Bullet Away, The Making of a Marine Officer by Nathaniel Thicke. This book is about a university-educated guy that goes to be a Marine Corps officer and his experience in Afghanistan leading a troop of Marines. I really liked this book because I thought it was a true and honest account. Before that, I had read a memoir that it seemed like it was more fiction than anything, and I liked Nathaniel Thicke's insight. If you have any interest at all in the actual warfare, this is a great memoir, and I just feel that he's being true and honest in it, and it was a great look at the war and the politics, but specifically what a Marine officer would go through with the training and actually going into a wartime situation and being responsible as a leader to take these people out that are fighting with you, to take them home alive. So it's a really good book. It was my favorite memoir concerning the Iraq War and possibly even war in general. I loved the book. Well, that's my top 5, everyone. I got through it. I asked you to subscribe if you made it this far, and stay tuned.